Pakistani Air Force. I think that partnership will ultimately impact positively on what we are doing in Nigeria.
And those are the news highlights for now. The program continues with Blessing and Kinsley after this break. Stay with us.
The new edition of TV Guide is out, exclusively taking a look at the traditional television and new media. Are they comparable or complementary? Media industry players give perspective on the trends, progress, challenges, and the way forward. Find out on this compelling edition of TV Guide. Expository interviews with stars of the team within our space. Madajemo of NTA, Tibel More, AIT, Nifemi Oguntai of TVC, and a host of others. TV Guide, your indispensable companion, also feature Yamadina.
I'm the CEO, managing director of Yamadina Sister Restaurant. I choose to serve your mouth.
A TV drama series on NTA. Let's get to meet the characters behind Yamadina. This edition also presents exciting features on tourism, culture, entertainment, sports, health, and lots more. Grab a copy at the vendors near you or any NTA station nationwide. TV Guide, your indispensable companion.
Honorable Minister of Information and Culture, Alhaji Mohammed, cordially invites members of the general public to a special town hall meeting on security. Date, Tuesday, 15th October 2019. Time, 10 a.m. Venue, Katsina State Local Government Commission Conference Room, Kaito Road, opposite State House of Assembly, Katsina State. Deaconess Grace Isugekwe, Permanent Secretary, Federal Ministry of Information and Culture. Announcer.
I want to introduce to you what we call the Ratus Okopolos, aka Bushrat, aka Dewi, aka. This is the time of the year when they make it, understand. I would like you people to see how these things are done. Every time you see a Ratus Okopolos, there will be a serpentis around trying to, chopulate. And when they chopulate, it will.
More out of life, the new Airtel data plan.
Airtel, the smartphone network.
Their ancestors were taken away as slaves. Now they return as kings and queens on a pilgrimage back to the motherland. The third door of return ceremony, Diaspora Festival, Badagry, Lagos, Nigeria, takes place in Badagry from the 15th to the 20th of October 2019. For details on participation and sponsorship, contact the following. Website adore.ng. The African Door of Return Experience. Don't miss it. To you by the African Door of Return Experience Initiative in collaboration with the Nigerians in Diaspora Commission and the African Renaissance Foundation. Chief host, the Lagos State Government.
So fast. Look, I'm tired. I want to check out of this country for greener pastures.
Just calm down for a moment. Please sit down. Do you have a job where you're going to?
No, but someone is arranging,
Listen, Aliko. Checking out this country without proper planning means one thing. Unimaginable begin.
Eh?
I've been in the diaspora, but legitimately doing great things at home and abroad. As I've been saying, without the proper footing abroad, the risk is not worth it. Listen, Aliko, it's better to be home than trapped abroad, or you end up in prison.
Hooray! NTA Abeokuta is 40. Come, let's celebrate 40 years of impressive TV broadcasting on the grassroots. On Thursday, 17th October 2019, there'll be a lecture titled Lens and Sound, Television, a tool for social reorientation and good governance. Guest lecturer, Professor Oluyemisi Oluremi Obiladi, Professor of Education and Women's Studies, Obafemi Awolowo University. Special guest of honor, His Excellency Prince Dapo Abiodun, Governor of Ogun State. Royal Father of the Day, His Royal Majesty Oba Adedotun Aremu Gbadebo, the Alake and Pramontrola of Egbaland. Chairman of the occasion, Chief Olatunde Anyela Abudu, Mayego of Egbaland. Chief Host, Malam Yakubu Ibn Mohammed, Director General, NTA. Other activities lined up for the occasion include an array of awards to distinguished entities held to walk on Saturday, 12th October 2019, while a novelty match comes up on Tuesday, 15th October 2019 at MKO Abiola Stadium. Come, celebrate 40 years of impressive television at the grassroots with us and take NCA Abeokuta to the next level.
What we are really cultivating here is a better future for all Nigerian women, and it's not always easy. Panadol Extra relieves headache, backache, joint pain, toothache, and menstrual pain. The pain is worth it.
Thank you for joining us on Good Morning Nigeria today. And let's take a look at the business reports. The Nigerian Custom and Excise says national land border closure is for the good of the country. Well, details of this, as well as other business stories with Kolo Mohammed.
The Open Government Portal is part of the requirements for member countries of the Open Government Partnership to which Nigeria is a signatory. It is aimed to improve and sustain transparency, competition, and accountability.
We want to move away from manual way of doing things, so that we move. It's part of the holistic plan towards e-procurement.
What this will enable us to do is we'll be able to track that you ought to have submitted your procurement plan. If you have submitted your procurement plan, have you started implementation? When the procurement plan says you should have an advert, is the advert in place?
Customs Controller General Hamid Ali says closure of national land borders is in tune with advancing the nation's security and prioritizing national economic interests.
The border closure has impacted positively on revenue generation of the federal government, which in turn will be used to build more infrastructure, develop critical sectors of the nation's economy. The border exercise has also curbed diversion of petroleum products from Nigeria to neighboring countries. As it is the last report, is that our consumption of PMS, that's petroleum product, has reduced by 10.2 million liters. Which then means that 10.2 million liters has continually been smuggled to our neighboring countries.
And finally, the week opened positively on the floor of the Nigerian stock market as NSE All-Share Index appreciated by 0.09% to close at 26,557.44 basis points. Let's now let you see where activities placed market indices for Monday. News at this time. Be with you again soon.
Many thanks, Chloe, for the business packet. For look at the front pages of the paper this moment.
Yes, the papers are available, and so is the reviewer. He's already seated. Good morning to you, Bill.
Thank you, Blessing. Good morning. Good morning, Kinsley. Good morning, Nigeria.
That's right.
Okay, let's kick off the leadership newspaper. Just below the nameplate, we have a federal government orders total closure of borders. We had a partial closure, but now we have the order for total closure. I have two states revolted over abuses, as it's coming from the Commissioner of Police, and a 78-year-old operator arrested, and others are on their own. Just beside the photograph, we have a fuel subsidy allocated 450 billion naira in 2020 budgets. More details about National Crimes Commission nabs 94 suspected internet fraudsters in Osun State. Story trending on page 16. Now, about the minimum wage, federal government labor in make or mar meeting today. Find that story on page 2. 119 Nigerians on death row in Malaysia. Details on page 6. And we have stories on business on the inside pages as well. Kingsley?
Okay, let's take a look at the Daily Trust. The lead story for Daily Trust says federal government bans imports and exports through land borders. With two riders, experts kick, say it will increase inflation. And rice farmers hail policy. That's the lead story for Daily Trust. Now, below the nameplates and above the lead story, it says APC crisis deepens. Buhari and Oshomole's states worst hit. That's on page 13. That should be worst hit. Then, the other headline says 2019 budget performance is 55%, says federal government. Details we can find on page 17 of the Daily Trust. And right at the foot of the front page of the paper, police shut down another Quranic school, arrest cleric. That's on page 6. Yellow fever, death toll hits 22 in Bochi. That's page 4. And Kaduna, 4 abducted students rescued. That's another story on page 4. Bayo.
Yes, let's start with Katsina, where the police have shut down a place that is belonging to Malam Bello May Al-Majire. The place has 6 rooms. Each room was accommodating about 40 inmates. The place was said to have pupils in handcuffs and leg chains. It has been described as a reformatory. It's been there for over 40 years, it is said. But the Emir of Daura, His Royal Highness Emir Farouk, has expressed shock and surprise that Saitino was in existence. He has challenged the police to comb the nooks and crannies of the area to ensure that all the persons who are involved are brought to book. Also, the police have been challenged to comb all the 34 local government areas of Katsina State to ensure that such centers, if there are any, are opened up and the perpetrators arrested. The Nigerian Customs has announced the ban on import on land, import and export to land borders. The Controller General of Customs at the press conference by the immigration and also declared that this is in conjunction with the police as stated by the Office of the National Security Advisor. They made closure of 20. The Controller General of the Customs says that since that time, also revealed that about 2 million liters of petrol is consumption throughout the period of about 2 days. 1,111 illegal entrants have been barred from coming into the country. They have been from Chamber of Commerce of Lagos and Abuja. They say the one that major affect the African continental trade agreement, also has the potential to introduce that import direct through the import facilities the safety of that are brought area. Which is also creating a lot of heat. But there's the doctrine and reality. How do I mean? Well, after the signing into April, the federal government is saying that minimum wage has been implemented. That is to say, officers on level 1 to 7 who were 18,000 naira and now earning 30,000 have paid the idea of the initial table of this 30% for those on level 7 and we provided 9.5% for those on level 7 to 15 and 5% for those on level 15 to 17. Negotiations continued and Labour came down to those on level 7 to 14, 29%. Those on level 15 to 17, 24%. The federal government also increases to 11 for level 14, 6.5% those level 15 to 17. Now, Labour because the wage it has that and to preside over a meeting between Labour on one hand and government and agreement will be reached. And he has also provided the clarification. This wage has been paid was consequential adjustment. And if that is added to the chairman of the National Wages and Salaries Committee, if government agrees to pay the 20% or 30% money, it means that one of those on the minimum wage of 18,000 got 12,000 as increment, where the will be getting 100,000 as an increment. Government cannot afford that. And you know that we have said several times here, it depends upon ability to pay. So this has clarified. It's not a wage review. It is a salary review. And that will be how different their counterparts in other competitors who are 300% attended the same school, go to the same. So those are the perspective.
All right, but I mean, it's crunch time as well, because if you recall, when the amendments were being made for a new minimum wage of 30,000 naira, the single most important story that was told was that, look, help me any Nigerian who can survive on 18,000 naira.
Yes.
Transportation, health, school fees, and all of that. 18,000. That was supposed to be the most persuasive point. And they said, okay, the governor said they will pay 22,500 or thereabout. Eventually, everybody said, okay, pay 30,000. Now, after wage, that we're talking that around new minimum wage, having a total wage review. Total wage review. This means that every time we keep going back to what was a significant part of the Udoji Awards in 1974, 74, 75. That's every time you have a minimum wage, then there must be a total wage review for the civil service, if not for the public service, at least depending on the parastatal, particularly as you said, some of the parastatals are outside of it. Which economy can sustain such general wage review each time you have a new minimum wage every 5 years. Minimum wage is what it is. It's a shop floor figure to say no person should earn less than this amount, on a monthly basis as a minimum wage. It doesn't affect every other person that's, right up the ramp of the rungs of the ladder. But this is the implication that we've had. That is why we are complaining. The President presented the appropriation bill 2020, and all the analysts were telling you, oh, look at how much we are devoting to recurrent, see how much we are devoting to capital. Capital is less than 30%, which was the prospective target, 30%. So why will your recurrent expenditure not continually be so high as to make development almost a difficult thing for us?
In fact, the data that the minister provided is quite shocking, because it says that government cannot afford. Wage currently is about 1.8 trillion, and if they concede to what labor is demanding, salary is going to go to 3.38 trillion, an increase of about 160 billion. And therefore, if they go by the argument, you'll be robbing the poor of those in the minimum wage lower rung to pay the poor of those who are the higher echelon.
Why was the argument not made then that, look, if you pay the minimum wage of 30,000, those on levels 15, 16, and 17 will earn so much as a result of the consequential adjustment? If anybody made that argument, we had Dr. Ngige in the studios we have to be realistic.
Distinction between minimum wage and wage review.
That's right. Okay, but the other story, it's on the federal government banning imports and exports through land borders. The point is that the government is saying at this time, use airports or seaports. Yes. Airports or seaports. So let's see how far this policy can go, because our neighbors have not been cooperative. You have all kinds of goods that are streaming in through their own territories into our country, and some of those things have serious impact for our national security. You can see the firearms, small arms and light weapons that are all over the country, and then plus the fact that, look, Benin Republic is a corridor for how many tons of rice, every year. What is the population of Benin Republic? How much rice do they eat in that country?
In fact, two critical issues. Niger Republic now has banned export of rice to Nigeria.
That's right.
And Benin Republic, they import parboiled rice. But their nature in that country, they don't eat parboiled rice. So the destination is Nigeria.
Okay, Bayo, let's quickly run through the editorial. Sometimes in August, on August 6, 2019, 3 police detectives and a civilian were slain in Taraba. And the panel's report on Taraba killings is what we have as editorial today, and it's been taken from the Daily Sun. Bayo.
Yes, the Daily Sun is happening on the killing of 3 detectives of the Nigerian army and the civilian in the process of arresting an alleged kidnap kingpin, Hamisu Bala, otherwise known as What Do You Mean? The 7-man panel was headed by Rear Admiral Ibikunle Olaya, and the panel had found officers culpable, and those found culpable include a captain on the Nigerian Army, an ASP of the police, the divisional crime officer of IBI, an inspector, a sergeant, and a corporal. They are all found culpable, and they have directed that their services should try them, either court-martial or orderly room trial, and if eventually also they should face prosecution. However, the report indicated that this happened because of lack of cooperation between the 2 agencies. Particularly, the police is involved in charge of internal security. The armed forces are invited to help. However, the rules of engagement and cooperation is lacking, and therefore the editorial is happening that it is an unnecessary competition between the agencies that sometimes lead to this breakdown on communication. However, the panel reports apparently have glossed over what appeared to be a collusion, a contact between the alleged kingpin and some of the officers who were involved in the shooting. And the editorial raised one critical point. What was the need when the soldiers had shot at the vehicle and the bus had tumbled? What was the need to go over and still shoot the officers in the vehicle in cold blood. And therefore, the editorial is happening on the fact that, yes, there's a need to get the rules of engagements correct, but those who are found culpable must also face the wrath of the law.
All right, Bayo. And that will be it for today. Thank you so much. We'll get to see you again tomorrow.
Tomorrow will be another day. Thank you.
Yeah. You're watching Good Morning Nigeria, and we'll take a break. When we return, it will be time to take a look at the first part of our conversation today, and that is looking at the National Social Investment Program of this administration.
An award that has succeeded to pool a galaxy of stars from the north, south, east to the west, and central Africa, and also those that are domiciled beyond the shores of Africa under one roof.
They are there at the crack of dawn. They are there busy preparing while we rise for our day. They are there silently, guarding, waiting, listening, and watching. They are there ready in the sky above, in the waters below, in the blistering heat of the day, in the dead of night, willing, indefatigable, determined in the defense of the sovereignty of our country. They are our first line of defense and our last. They who have paid the ultimate price in defending us. They are fathers and uncles. They are mothers and sisters and girlfriends and boyfriends. They are brothers and cousins and best friends and neighbors. They are classmates, colleagues, and citizens of this nation. They are our defenders and deserve our respect, our prayers, our thoughts. Nigeria, please support our armed forces.
Thank you. Thank you, sir. Please, did you hear that?
Of course I did. That is village headmaster tune.
So, Auntie Amebo was not gossiping then?
Village headmaster is celebrating 50 years.
50? Already?
Wait, you mean people have been watching village headmaster since 1968? How time flies. I have retired, but not tired.
And now 50 years now. So because of that, we won't get big party.
New date, now 28th to 29th October 2019.
Now me, I'm a body invite you now, and my belly just is sweet. Because I don't say all those people they drink my palmy, then go come drink the tomboy again. And me, radio jam, they call you now. They could not forget it.
Film Festival 2019. Theme: Content Connectivity. Date: 1st to 7th December 2019. Venues: Jabi Lake Mall and NAF Conference Center, Abuja. Submission of film entries opens July 1st and closes October 30th, 2019. All film entries are to be submitted through the Film Freeway, www.filmfreeway.com/Zuma Film Festival. For sponsorship, partnership, participation, and other inquiries, please call 003-3146-842 or 003-6740997 or 006-3390-420. Visit zumafilmfestival.gov.ng or email zumafilmfestival@gmail.com. Nigerian Film Corporation, powering possibilities.
Hey, bro, what's up, man?
Wait. Sure, son, I want device to carry.
Enjoy more data than before on Airtel Home Broadband. Get up to 160 gigabytes on routers with 25,000 Naira and 55 gigabytes on Airtel MiFi's with 12,000 Naira. More data, more you. Reliable home broadband by
Airtel, the smartphone network.
If you just tuned in, the program is Good Morning Nigeria. We're showing live on the network service of the NTA. Now to begin our first part of our conversation, looking at the National Social Investment Program, let's get the views of the people as regards their thoughts on the program so far.
Yes, it's a good program because when the present government introduced it, where women and young people who are intending to carry out some small and medium businesses, so through that they be able to get some palliative measure that will be able to help them. So it's a good program, and so far with the result and all that, I think about successful now we can say about 80% is successful. Because most of those beneficiaries, you can now see that they are doing well, both in the marketplaces and other places.
It's effective for the petty traders, and I think everybody is talking well about it. And we hope the CBN and other financial institutions, will monitor it to the later end.
It takes two to tango. One, when you are feeding the children, which means the farmer produces more. It encourages the farmers to produce more because as soon as they produce the product, it is being taken off from them. Two, it encourages children coming to school, which is education, because a lot of major problem we are facing is that in some part of the country, education is low. Then we needed and how can encourage the children now coming to school. So by feeding program, it will help because it encourages the children to go back to school instead of out of school.
My business has grown from grass to grace.
Somebody boost my business into the high level.
All right, now these were comments there by some Nigerians on the SIP, that's the Social Investment Programs of the incumbent administration. Now we have with us the studios right here in Abuja as well as at our network center in Lagos to discuss the issue in further detail. First with us in Abuja, Mrs. Miriam Uwais, who is the special advisor to the president on social investments. Mrs. Uwais, pleasure to have you again on Good Morning Nigeria.
Thank you for having me.
Congratulations on your award by the Schwab Foundation with regard to the public social entrepreneurship. Okay, also here with us in the Abuja studios, Ajuri Ngelale, Senior Special Assistant to the President of Public Affairs. Ajuri, pleasure to have you again on Good Morning Nigeria.
Thank you for having me.
Okay. And then here also in Abuja is a beneficiary of the SIP, that's Ms. Margaret Okon. She's an N-Health volunteer who is currently serving with the FCT Primary Healthcare Board. Margaret, pleasure to have you with us on Good Morning Nigeria. In Lagos, we have Dr. Undi Unoli Edozie. She's founder, Growing Business Foundation. Dr. Undi Edozie, pleasure to have you on Good Morning Nigeria.
Morning.
All right, blessing.
All right, thank you very much. Gentlemen and also ladies, both in Lagos as well. Okay, hi Miriam Uwais, congratulations once more. And 3 years on, this program is taking its own leaps in different directions, both on the national scene as well as the international scene. I would just what would you say are the high points for you at this point?
I think there's so many dimensions, and as the programs have evolved, we've had to see how to consolidate and ensure that the structures are entrenched. So there are new things emerging But we're very satisfied that we've been able to reach as many Nigerians as we can. And that, for me, is what we've been trying to do. People that have no connections with anybody, and they are actually benefiting. You go to places and you see people coming up to you to say, very poor people, or you go into a cab and somebody says, you know, my family, somebody got a Jeep loan, somebody's being fed. Those, for me, are the high points, not just, I mean, of course, it's great to have an award, but the fact that it's happening and it's getting to the grassroots, that, for me, is what is really awesome.
Was there always a target number to reach as many millions as possible?
It depends on which program. You know, for this year, we're hoping with the cash transfer beneficiaries, we'll hit the 1 million mark. And that means for every household, that's, I mean, about 5 million, because we're targeting consumption. And we pay the caregiver. So the caregiver takes care of the family with the monies we give them. And interestingly, just from 17 states, these women that have been given 5,000 naira every month have been able to save 567 million naira. They have, I mean, over 18,000 cooperatives. And, they've been able to take loans. 18,000 of them have been able to take loans from the 567 million, and less than 1 million have defaulted. So, I mean, the productivity that is going on at the community level, the way women are gaining confidence to be able to handle their own issues. They're doing animal husbandry, they're doing trading, their children are going back to school, even without there being a condition that you should take your children back to school. So now we're about just over 600,000, but we're sure that by the end of the year, because we have a register that is over, I mean, it's over 6 million individuals already on it, and it's desegregated. I mean, you can just draw out anything you want, the youth in poor families, those with disability, all of that is there. So, I mean, it's something we're very proud of in the Social Investment Office, and we think it's a legacy that this government will have and will leave for this country. The targets to reduce poverty is really, I mean, on course, and it's irreversible as far as I see. That's just for the cash transfer.
Yes, there are the other aspects of
yes, so
the
the
program.
Empower, we're hoping by next year. This budget, we can't increase any more Empower graduates because the budget doesn't make provision for them. But by next year, we're hoping to take another 200,000 when we disengage the ones that are on now, the first 200,000. So we'll still have 500,000. For our school feeding program, by the end of this year, we should have covered at least 36 states, well, 35 states and the FCT. By the first session next year, we would have done the last state because we're already talking, I mean, we've already got the structures on ground. It just is a process. So we're looking at least 15 million children. And then for the Jeep, we have 3 million hoping to get. But it all depends on the releases that we get. You know, it's not a matter of budgeting or appropriation. It's the fact that we only get a fraction of what we have the capacity to cover, but we need the funding to back our ambitions.
How worrisome is this when you're getting the releases?
Well, it's very encouraging for us that we've got a lot of public buy-in, because we feel that would be part of the pressure. There are many contending demands. There are many needs. There's a need for infrastructure, and for a lot of the politicians and for the private sector, they want to see tangible, brick and mortar. They want to see the hospitals, and they don't really appreciate the fact that social investments impact on education, health, which take some time. You need to lift people up to get to the point where the infrastructure is meaningful for them. So, I mean, it's a long discussion. It's a conversation that needs to be had. And the fact that we have a population that is not capped it's unlimited. So there's so many things, but we're looking at the Economic Advisory Council, we're looking at all the private sector to see how we can actually source for funding, explore other options of funding apart from the budget.
In terms of the success story, amongst the different branches of the social investment programs, which of them have been the most, shall we say, most successful? I mean, conditional accounts transfer or the Empower or...
There are different audiences. There's youth, I really wouldn't say. It's like having 4 children and you're being asked to say which one is your favorite. Everyone is successful.
But there must be one that's actually giving your heart some kind of pride. So
all of them give me pride. All of them, honestly.
Okay. All right. Okay, let's get to meet, before we come to Ajiri. You're a beneficiary as well, and I'm sure there's some, you had some reservation before you came on board. So tell us your own success story. Okay. Margaret.
Thank you very much, Ma. Before coming on board, I was working in a private company where I barely have time for myself. But getting on board through the Empower platform gave me the opportunity to actually meet and learn new things that could help me in my own personal business, or if I'm supposed to be employed somewhere else, it will be beneficial both to me and both to the employer. Now, coming on board, it has given me the opportunity to meet diverse kinds of persons in terms of the people which are my Empower volunteers. I happen to work in the office where I receive complaints, I attend to people, we resolve issues for N-Health under the FCT Primary Healthcare Board. And you come to realize that so many people are actually grateful for the opportunity that was being given. I, for myself, I grabbed the opportunity very well. And in the course of the program, I realized that I have weekends and I have extra time for myself. So what did I do to equip myself? I had to go purchase a postgraduate form and I enrolled. I started. Now I'm done with my coursework. And I have a couple of other colleagues over there who have also done theirs. Some have gotten themselves skilled profession like sewing, learning how to make hair, learning some other things just to get themselves busy. So I want to say it's a platform that has actually opened our minds, not to just rely on what you're getting, but to see that there's something more you can actually achieve through a platform. Because it will be wrong after 2-3 years, you come and you say to yourself, what did I benefit? To me, I want to say that I have achieved the opportunity to further my education.
Okay.
All right, but I just through with Margaret Okon. In addition to the fact that you've had the opportunity of graduate education while you are on the N-Health program as a volunteer, what has been your own specific contribution to your beat while you are with the FCT Primary Healthcare Board?
Okay. The office, I'm working with the Director of Planning, Research and Strategy. In that office, we are in charge of all the Empowers and Health in FCT. What we do the posting, we do the relocation. Maybe you want to redeploy, we redeploy. We receive complaints. Probably you have issues and you need to be resolved. Like someone that was being owed for almost a year, she was not paid. When you come, we attend to you. We communicate with your in charge of the various health facility to ensure that you are actually active and we're going to work. So we know that the payment is just an error from your own side or probably from the computer, which imputing might have caused. For myself, we've been able to bridge the gap at the FCT Primary Healthcare Board for the Empowers there. Because
in what way?
Yeah, we've assisted them in during their programs, the SIA supplementary. We assist them in monitoring. We do a lot of field work. We do a lot of jobs for them there.
Okay, you see Margaret, we've had calls to discuss primary health care in Nigeria, and during the first term of President Muhammadu Buhari, the then Minister of Health introduced a scheme to revitalize primary healthcare centers throughout the country. And so your function is very important. That's FCT, Primary Healthcare Board. If you did a lot of field work, and perhaps you still do a lot of field work, what is it that you have observed with the services at the primary healthcare centers? Because you are in the office of the Director of Planning, Research and Statistics. The information presumably you bring back from the field will inform the reports and propositions by your director. What is it that you observed and you are still observing about the FCT Primary Healthcare Center in terms of kind of facilities that they have, in terms of the services and the quality of such services to patrons?
For FCT, they are trying, and they have a lot of good facilities, despite the fact that some of them are being found in the remote areas, and they try as much as they can to send people to those places. Some places are hard to reach, like during the rainy season, you can't even access that place except you have to cross the river. But I want to give kudos to those people working over there, the health workers over there, because they try to ensure that those people have reason to come there by making sure that the place is functioning, not just because you're being employed and you just decide it's a government job, I don't go to work. No, they go to work, they attend to people. The immunization services has actually increased. The nutrition status is also improving by the access they have through the FCT. So I want to say that the facilities are doing very well. Yes, because when you go to the field always, the essence is to bring reports and improve on what you have seen. So most of the reports that are being brought back are worked upon. So they are still working on doing more and better things for the benefits of the FCT.
Okay, so it's a great one.
Yeah.
Okay, Ajiri, I'll still have to put you on pause. We're taking a fill because there are some things I want you to write to us, someone in charge of public affairs for the Office of the President. Okay, let's get to Lagos, where we earlier introduced Dr. Ndidi Noli Edozian, founder of Growing Business Foundation for the National Social Investment Programs. There have been accolades, but then there are also some other concerns from industry watchers. Let's have your view on 3 years down the line, where we and how have we performed?
Right. Thank you. Thank you for having me. And it's a gift to Growing Businesses Foundation is now 20 years old, and when we initiated this collaboration of private sector actors 20 years ago, issues like sustainable development and social responsibility were not the norm. So we were trying to seek collaboration between public sector, private sector, and civil society to do exactly the kind of program that the National Social Investment Program is. So that's a big step forward. We're prioritizing segments of the population that are absolutely critical: our youth, our children, and our women. And this is really the majority of the bottom of the pyramid, and the ability to spur economic activity and sustainable growth and inclusive development at the bottom of the pyramid is absolutely critical to Nigeria's development and growth globally. We all know that Africa's youth population is going to grow not exponentially, but sometimes we're afraid that it might. We worry about that because of the issues of unemployment. Now, one of the critical things is to acknowledge, what kind of impact are we having with the intervention programs that we introduce? We need to be able to measure what every naira that we put in is unfolding. One of the key factors, so yesterday I interviewed 3 youth corpers that we just picked because we said we would take on some youth corpers onto the program that we're working on. And I must say to you that I was positively impressed by the level of curiosity, the level of interest, the level of dedication and commitment. I spoke to a youth corper who made a third-class degree, and I challenged her as to why she had a third-class degree. And the counter I got was, one, the nervousness of having not done so well in school for various reasons, and on the other hand, the hunger to learn, the hunger to grow. One of the youth corpers was a gentleman who had challenged his parents to buy him a computer in SS3 and had decided to become a web developer and was keen to add value to our graphic design, to our building of a platform. We're trying to build sustainability management systems in the office, so he wanted to be part of that process. And I think to one program that I think I would like to end with on this comment, namely a program that we implemented at the bottom of the pyramid, and we started 5 years ago with 100 women. Now, the importance of being able to combine children, women, youth, and, for example, healthcare. You just spoke about healthcare. We went into the communities, primary healthcare centers, and we realized that there was inadequate supply of medication. Some of these primary healthcare centers are so remote that it's actually very difficult to get education into those areas. Sometimes you find very dedicated staff who are willing to help, but they're unable to do anything because they don't have the resources that they require. Now, sometimes the answer is in the locality, and what we realized is that there was an insufficient supply of iron to pregnant women and to young girls. And so a lot of our effort had to do with a new learning that was, if you put green leafy vegetables into your stew, in addition to the iron you may get from the primary healthcare center, if you don't overboil your vegetables, it's actually an additional source of iron. Also raising awareness on how important iron is. And then the program really was, and right now that program, working with a fast-moving consumer goods company, essentially works with 3,000 women across 17 states, has generated 4 billion naira in turnover last year to the fast-moving consumer goods company in a space where made in Nigeria goods previously had no market entry because we were using only imported goods that were sub-quality. The reason why people would pay that additional margin for a good made in Nigeria that is of good quality is because these women suddenly became not just sales agents, but also health and nutrition ambassadors who were educating on the importance of iron to a married pregnant woman or to a teenager young lady that may just have started puberty. And so, you see, we're growing big industry by acting on young women, young men, women generally, being health ambassadors and sales agents in rural communities. They're generating additional income. They're learning on the job. They're improving their societies. All these women, by the way, were unemployed. Point I'm trying to make, we need to actually go beyond government being the owner of social welfare programs to ensuring that we have a collaboration between public sector, private sector, and civil society, and ensure that we are able to build on the NSIP program to ensure that we're building a sustainable platform for continued socioeconomic development and social inclusion.
All right. Thank you very much, Dr. Nde. I mean, that's you're on the fast forward as to how to ensure that the NSIP is sustainable going forward. I just wanted to take you back a bit. Now, in the past, you used a 20-year benchmark. We have seen various attempts at the so-called poverty alleviation. And it turned out that a number of those programs just were money-sharing ventures. People just got money from the treasury, and then they were just giving money to the beneficiaries.
But the point to target
poverty wasn't alleviated. If anything, it was aggravated. For the NSIP, 3 years on, what, in your opinion, has changed and therefore needs to be retained and sustained in terms of seeking to tackle extreme poverty and hunger at the bottom of the pyramid?
Okay, so I think what's very critical is ensuring that we're focused not just on poverty alleviation, but also wealth creation. I think the importance of ensuring that we're building an inclusive system whereby, if I think about the feeding program of children in schools, my understanding is that we're impacting various areas. One is that we are ensuring that our children have the right level of nutrition at a critical age, so that their brains, because the fourth industrial revolution is really centered not just around technology. People always say it's about disruptive technologies and robotics and artificial intelligence. And I always say it's centered around people. It's centered around knowledge. And I don't know any more knowledgeable, innovative, creative group than young Nigerians. I am amazed over and over and over again. So we need to nurture and feed those young minds, not just nutritionally, but also with hope, with encouragement, with a craving and a hunger for knowledge. What I like about that program is it's not just that we are encouraging mothers to encourage this nurturing of their kids, but we're also looking back to who is doing the cooking. Because you see, as long as we are encouraging more entrepreneurs to cook and to supply food to those schools, and we're building efficiencies into that value chain, the more you cook locally, the more conscious you are of what it is you're cooking, the more conscious you are of where your food is coming from, the more that you're actually developing industry backwards. So in other words, increasing if I was going to build on that, I would say, well, the food that you're cooking, is it coming from the neighboring village? And who is growing that food? So the whole point is, as a result of one program, not only are you nurturing a young child's mind, you're also ensuring that you are growing. Maybe the next best chef will come out of a little rural village in the middle of nowhere. And then you're also ensuring that you're sourcing food locally, which means you're encouraging job creation in agriculture. And hopefully with all of that, we can actually encourage younger people to deploy their very creative, ingenious minds to including more technology, more efficiency in the supply chain and the value chain of agriculture, increasing production yields from limited amounts of farmland because we're using improved seeds and applying fertilizer properly. So to me, it is the foundation that is important and what we build on it, above all, by having this consciousness of and awareness of the fact that the Sustainable Development Goals are about leaving no one behind. And I think just putting this agenda on the front burner of building an inclusive society that engenders sustainable development and ensures that we're building the economy from the bottom up is a very, very important message that everybody needs to buy into.
Thank you very much, Dr. Nolly Edozie. We'll get back to you in the course of the discussion. Okay. Finally, we'll get to speak with Ajiri. Yes, you're the Senior Special Assistant to the President on Public Affairs, and I'm sure in the public domain there have been so much talk about the social investment programs, some very palatable, some not too nice, and I'm sure there are stories that are heartwarming about the program.
Well, thank you very much, Bliss. First of all, this is an administration that welcomes accountability. We don't see criticisms of programs or observations that could improve the program as some form of dissent. We see it as something that can add value potentially to what we're already doing. And so some of the stories that you hear about, potentially Empower staff in maybe small pockets of the country, maybe they're collecting the stipend, but they're not showing up for duty, for example. We have been able to effectively, I think in the last 1 year or so, out of 526,000 beneficiaries, approximately 2,500 were found to be taking the stipend and not participating the way that they should be. I think that speaks to the efficiency and strength of the monitoring and evaluation mechanism that we've built into the program. And I think that comes as a result of the partnerships that the federal government has intentionally taken with civil society organizations like ActionAid. You have Accenture involved. I think all of these partnerships have created the conditions for the kinds of monitoring and evaluation that will ensure that those stories that we hear that are not positive are not sustainable and we don't see recurrences. And so I think that's been very good. Now, on the other side of it, I also want to just stress that in as much as we, are happy with the awards that we're winning globally with this program, and more importantly, the over 10 million Nigerians that are now benefiting from the programs, we also want to emphasize that our investments in the social, stability and upward social mobility of our people goes beyond the NSIP. We are working assiduously with various development banks at the moment to establish a $500 million innovation fund that is separate from this program that will create 500,000 new job opportunities for young Nigerians who are very active in the innovation space and the information and communication technology space. Then we also have a program that we're building at the moment called Skill Up Nigeria. That's going to take another 10 million young people and offer 1% payroll tax contribution exemptions to major world-class organizations across sectors that would essentially take in our young people, train them at the highest level across various sectors within these organizations like Unilever, Dangote, some of these major organizations, train them in exchange for that exemption, and then we can now release them back into the market and offer them the kinds of access to capital that will allow them to start up new operations separate from the SIP. So I think we're taking a very holistic look at this, and ultimately I think Nigerians have a lot to look forward to in the area of social investment.
Okay, thanks. Let's return to Hajia Miriam Owais with regard to some aspects of the SIP. If you recall, this was an issue we had you on the program at the early stages. Some of the participants and therefore beneficiaries were concerned that the engagement period would be 2 years. So what has happened to those who were engaged have been disengaged, and how is the program running in that regard?
Well, the program was initially conceived as a 2-year program, but the president is a bit concerned about disengaging them without us having ensured that they have taken ownership of their lives, either as entrepreneurs or as employees. So over these past few months, we've been engaging the CBN, NERSAL, even the police have said they need some community policemen. We have an issue with financial inclusion, so we've been meeting with SANEF, the shared agency network, or the banks, because we need agents in all the communities so that people can actually engage with financial transactions without cash. And we do know that cashless Nigeria is coming. It's going to be an issue for at least the last mile beneficiaries, because poverty doesn't sit in the same space with banking infrastructure. So we're trying to see how we can address some of these gaps through these Empower beneficiaries that are are meant to be disengaged hopefully by the end of this year. We're looking at loans to be made available to them, but it hasn't been finalized yet because, of course, we've just been relocated to a new ministry. And I have to sit down with I sat down with her yesterday and briefed her, but for us to proceed with the original plans, it'll take a little time, I think.
What does that mean? I mean, is the original schedule in abeyance to say, look, you've been engaged for 2 years, and then you guys move out, let a new set of persons come in?
Yes, that has to happen because the 2020 budget does not have provision for those that were initially taken, and they've been on it for over 2 years. They're aware. We did a survey recently. Over 110,000 of them have actually started their own businesses. But of course, nobody wants to stop earning 30,000 naira every month. And yes, we have complaints. We know that 98.2% of them have been paid. But that 1.8% are the ones that make the noise and say we haven't been paid and all of that. So we're trying to see how we can address all of those challenges. It's not in abeyance. It's just that we need a lot of engagement with the new structure and the new authorities before we can proceed. But something has to give by the end of the year.
The portal was opened some time ago. I mean, I read the story. I'm not sure whether it's been closed, and there was quite an enthusiastic reaction.
Also,
on my it's NGOs time that's it professional.
This is working out as a